Lemon in Evanston, Illinois. Hey, Lemon, thanks for listening to WCPT. What's up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just relate how...
Actually, Lemon, you sound quite muffled. Are you on a speakerphone, or is it possible to...
Is this better?
That's 1,000% better. Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to call and relate the experience I had growing up in Los Angeles back in the very late 70s, when some friends of mine came to a neighborhood that I live in called Ladera Heights, which is where a lot of affluent black people live. And when they picked me up, it's about 4 or 5 of us, and we went driving around doing the things that teenagers do, but not breaking any laws. We were pulled over by the police when we approached South Central Los Angeles. They had us get out of the car, get on our knees, and interlock our hands behind our heads. So you have this spectacle of about 4 or 5 of us on the side of the road while the cops rummaged through our car. They still hadn't told us what we had done wrong, because knowing that cops, we tried to make an emphasis on not doing anything wrong in terms of our driving and whatnot. So one of the guys with me, really pressed it. Why did you pull us over? We didn't even do anything. License and registration, everything is cool. One of the cops comes out of the car we were in with a plastic baggie, walks up to us and shows us a .38 caliber pistol, and then tells us, "We found this in your car, and this is a known murder weapon and a recent homicide." Of course, the effect of that worked brilliantly. We shut up. You know, we no longer asked or infringed on their right to treat us like dogs. We didn't want this to escalate any further. And
presumably that gun was not
naive. Hello?
And presumably that gun was not actually in your car. You're saying that the officer was threatening to plant evidence?
Of course not. Of course not. We didn't have any. We didn't have anything illegal on us.
So basically, you were a group of middle class African American teenagers, right? Right.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, what it was is that I came from an upper middle class family because my father was a doctor. But because I went to school with middle class and working poor African Americans, they were schooling me on this really exciting world where they came from, where I went to their parties and hung out with their girls. And I accidentally learned in the process of this that they're treated like crap. And this was my first experience in finding out the fact that the police can act like the Gestapo. Yeah. You know, and there were 2 cars that stopped, 4 officers, so it wasn't like one cop doing this. Yeah. You know, and all the other cops were very much aware of the fact that he walked up to us and showed us this bag. And then they took the gun and everything and put it in the car. Right. And then after they didn't find anything, they let us go. But lesson learned, and that lesson, I was 14 at the time, was that at any minute now, if they pull you over and for whatever reason, maybe you gave them a reason by not submitting enough, or you resisted arrest, they can make up something and ruin your life. Right. You know. And then I moved to the all-white suburbs here, and it's not all white. I moved up to the mostly white suburbs in northern Chicago, which aren't so bad, only to find out in Chicago the police are the same way. And later, as an adult, I'd find out other things that I would witness. But I just wanted you to hear that example, because for a 14-year-old kid who was pretty naive about all of this, that's a hell of a thing to wake up to. And I had so many white friends over the years who don't even believe these stories happen. They think we're making this up to, I don't know what they think. Yeah. They just don't think it's real.
One of the things that you raise, a question you raise in my mind here in your story, you're talking about your father was a doctor. You came from a fairly wealthy family. You're African American. You had not been exposed to this kind of brutality living in an affluent community until you were 14, and you started hanging out with some kids who said, "Hey, let's go down to South Central, or part of LA where it's poorer."
From South Central, because of a zoning thing, I went to school in South Central. Sent their kids to private school, but as as my dad wanting to teach me a lesson, I was one of the few kids in my neighborhood who went to the public school, which was Crozer Junior High and Inglewood Junior High in South Central.
Right.
So I ended up seeing things that my social economic class was supposed to prevent me from ever experiencing.
I understand. And then that's my question, Lemon, is to what extent do you think that those cops who were coming down on you by class animus as opposed to racial animus?
Well, because my friends picked me up in their car, and they're not from the neighborhood. So when we weren't actually caught in the Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights area, it was when we were over by Florence, over in South Central. Right. So they had no clue that one of the kids in the car is a doctor's son. And so they also have no clue that one of the kids in the car, if he gets hit, there's enough money to pay for a real lawyer to find out what the hell happened. Right. Because if they had known that, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't act the way they do. Because even though my father had been pulled over because he had a nice car several times, thinking that he was a drug dealer, once they find out he's a doctor, they kind of step back. Right. So I think this was race. They had no notion of class. They were just looking to see, a bunch of some young black males in a car. Let's pull them over. I bet you they got something on them. Oh, they want to get smart with us? Let's show them who's in charge here.
Right. Right. And so the consequence of that is that you've felt since you were 14 years old that you live in a police state, essentially?
Even because of that singular example, because you don't have enough time in the day for me to tell you the other things I saw. Yeah. But what ended up happening is now every time I hear a story of an unarmed African American who's killed, and there's the he grabbed my gun, I automatically question that automatically, and my white peers, it seems in this country, automatically believe a cop, and yet they don't have any background information to know that sometimes this is not true, and we do, and so it drives you insane, man. If you look at the first reports of the North Carolina shooting, there is actually reporting going on the first few hours that the witnesses say that there was a struggle and the guy tried to reach for a taser. The reporter who said that, another reporter I know, was trying to find out, where did you find witnesses who said that? And he's not returning phone calls.
Right. Well, it was the official police story. I mean, that was being reported actually for several days.